welcome to the Magnificast, a podcast about Christianity and leftist politics. I'm your co-host, Matt Bernico.
I'm your other co-host, D. Deloff. Matt, as you probably have noticed, now that the Spirit Halloween is opened, we are finally stockpiling many bones in the basement of the Family Life Center. And I do think you should come down and kind of take a look, assess the situation. The budget, I gotta say, is getting pretty stretched. I don't think that we're going to have a lot for the big Christmas pageant this year, but I feel like it's going to be a fair trade-off. But I understand you've called me up to your beautiful office at the very tippy top of the Christian Family Life Center, which is surrounded by huge giant glass windows and TVs everywhere. It's a big futurist paradise in this room for a very important announcement, and I'd like to hear what it is. I'm prepared.
Wow. I'm so glad you're here. I've got some bad news, though. Just like Stephen Colbert, just like Jimmy Kimmel, we've been canceled by the President of the United States of America. He called up our boss, the big...
Jesus Christ.
That's the one. And he said, "You're fired." And that was the end. So this is going to be the last time we can do this bit about being youth pastors because it's been canceled by the president. And if you guys don't like that out there, the listeners, I get it. I don't like it either, but he's the president, and if he cancels our show, what else can we do, you know?
You should do what the Democrats have been doing, obviously very successfully, and just start writing some letters to the office of the President of the United States, insisting that we be brought back on the air.
You know, I am a longtime advocate of writing letters to people and telling them just what you think about them. But that's me, a normal person. Man, if I had a whole political party that was like, you know, supposed to be on the other side of the aisle from this guy, I'd probably be doing something different, like actually campaigning.
Okay. It is actually very funny now that you say that. This whole situation, it only now occurred to me how funny it is that, like, okay, when you're a normal person, you write a letter to your elected representative because you're not a political party. But to see, like, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries also write a letter to Donald Trump is like an admission that actually they're just as impotent as you are as a normal person. They too have no idea what to do. They have no political power. They have no interest in being in opposition. And they just want to, I guess, do the thing that they find particularly harassing to them, to the president, which, man, what a time to watch the Democrats do their thing.
I wonder if I have a better chance of the president reading my letter than Hakeem Jeffries does and Chuck Schumer does. It just feels like, you know, for him, their letter is going right in the trash. What is he? He doesn't care what they have to say. Like, they have no power. But I feel like if I were to write him a letter, he would at least maybe, you know, like one of his staffers would read it and then maybe summarize it in a big list of concerns or something. Which he probably also wouldn't.
They would ask Grok to summarize it.
They would ask Grok to do it, and then they would ask Grok to read it to him, and then they would ask Grok to change his diaper. I don't know. I can't say that on a podcast. I'm gonna go be in the United States pretty soon just for a quick visit, and I feel like they're gonna get me for that one. Anyways, yeah, we've been canceled, but we're gonna do one more big send off of this bit until we feel like we can kind of sneak it back on the air when the president isn't looking in the future. So, Dean, let's start things off. Well, okay, hang on. One second. If this is your first time to this podcast and this is the first time to this bit, and these types of episodes of Magnificast, what we're doing is talking about pressing Reddit questions that the youths are asking, and then also we're talking through some current events and offering a quick take on them. So this is a little bit different than a normal episode of the Magnificast where we might look more in depth at a particular topic or something. And this time, in this one, we're just kind of having fun with it, and we're talking about, you know, current events. We're offering takes. We're giving judgments. Anyways, Dean, do you want to get into it?
I do. I've got a pretty immediate question. This was posted 11 minutes ago, so it's pretty fresh.
Ooh.
There are already, amazingly, 3 responses to it. This is on the classic r/r Christianity. That's a different website. On this one, this person says, "Is it a sin to post sports highlights?" I want to post my wrestling and tackle football highlights in my Instagram, but I fear that it may be prideful or sinful. I have a conviction that if I post these, I will perform badly in my next game or meet. I will post it with a caption like, "All God, not me," or "God did it." And I want to glorify God as well through these posts. And I want to post these so that scouts or coaches will see them. But I also can't deny that I want to post these for my own image and for people to think I look good. Thanks for any advice, Matt. Now I know that you're always posting your wrestling highlights on Instagram.
I do that a lot
on your reels, in your feed. But is it a sin to do it?
Oh boy. Yeah, it could be prideful. That is a good point. It could be prideful. It could be boastful, and we know those aren't great things for Christians. I think though you can get away if you make a caption, "All God." I think that's a good first step because that really signals to people that this is, I mean, you might be good at this, but it's just because God made you good at it. I think that could help. I think if you also included an exciting Christian rock song in the background, a little, Skillet or Demon Hunter or other extremely offensive right-wing Christian band, that might be good.
You picked the two most Christo-fascist bands operating right now.
Yeah, exactly. I think that would be pretty good. And maybe, okay, here's something. So I know a little bit of something about producing social media content and video. And here's the thing. You got to keep people engaged in your video. Every 7 seconds, you need to be changing up what's going on in your video so that people stay sort of like sucked in and you can, capture their attention for just a few more seconds longer. But what if you got some like exciting clips, some good reels, and you're cutting it all up just the way that you should, so that people are sucked into it. And at the end, you have a little altar call and you say, "Wow, this is all God, guys." And you can be just like me if you give your heart to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. This is maybe something you could try.
Sounds pretty good. And if you do that, you definitely will not perform badly in your next game or meet. God will not make you trip when you're catching the ball at the big game.
Right, I forgot about that part. That's a superstition. That's not going to happen. It's fine. Do you remember I don't know if you ever saw this in youth group, Dean, but there was a compilation video of extreme sports called Extreme Days. That was basically what I'm describing. So I guess what I'm trying to say is you should reinvent the youth group favorite extreme days, and I think that would be great for you in a way that's not quite so boastful.
Okay, I have two questions. The first one is that a reference to the Toby Mac song, Extreme Days?
They are two interconnected media productions. It's like a sort of evangelical, extreme sports DVD that you'd watch in youth group when your youth pastor was too tired to like really give you a good lesson. But the Toby Mac song
when the teacher wheels in the
exactly
the big TV cart.
The Toby Mac song did feature prominently in this DVD, so they're not different. I guess there's a lot of overlap.
Okay, that's very funny because I haven't listened to that song in probably 20 years, which is crazy to say already. But if I remember right, it's basically about kind of like an apocalyptic time, or at least like a moment of, whatever, real Jesus freak energy. And the fact that it is reducible to sports highlights is extremely funny. It tells you everything you need to know about evangelicalism. The other question I have is on this 7-second thing. Is that true, or are you just being goofy? Is it true? Like, is that an industry standard? Received wisdom. Every 7 seconds, you have to change something in a video to keep people into it.
I don't know if it's an industry standard. It was the standard on the team of union media producers I worked on previously. Yeah, if you're making a video, you need to be like every 7 seconds, something exciting has to happen, or else people definitely won't watch it.
Wow,
something to think about.
That's unsettling to me.
Yeah,
unsettling, and I am going to tell my priest to give it a try this Sunday.
That actually is a great segue into my question that someone asked only 7 hours ago on the Christianity subreddit. And the question is this: is it a sin to feel bored at church, and what should I do about it?
Wow, I really hope not.
There's no body to this one. Is it a sin to feel bored at church?
Just spirit.
what should I? There's no body. There's only spirit. And what should I do about it? So, Dean, what do you think? Is it a sin if you're bored? And then, if you are bored and if you're sinning, what should you do about it at church?
Hmm. Well, it certainly should not be a sin. I'll say that first. Whether or not it is one, I don't know. But it definitely should not be one, because if it is one, then I'm in big trouble and I don't want to be. I don't want to be in big trouble. So for now, I'm going to say no, it's not, because I'd prefer that it wasn't. Probably not the criteria you should apply to every sin, but it is the one I'm going to apply to this one.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you are bored in church, though, that's, you can take that internally, personally, I guess. But I feel like, as you said, the segue from the previous comment, maybe it's also kind of the church's fault. Now, in the case of the Catholic Church, I feel like I'm willing to give the church some grace. Like, what's boring to me, a person who is currently trying to play Skyrim in French because I cannot read a book about French. And I'm desperately attempting to learn this language in the dumbest way possible because my attention span is bad. For me, I understand the Mass probably not going to be as exciting to me as it might have been to a medieval person. They were probably losing their minds every time the Eucharist was coming down the aisle because they couldn't watch TV, and that's fine. So I'm willing to kind of deal with the boredom of it because I appreciate the transhistorical nature of it. But I think if you're in an evangelical church, there's really no excuse. That's the church's fault. They can do whatever they want and they're boring you. I think that's important to say. And secondly, at least in those liturgical churches, the priest does have a minute to get a little wet and wild with it at the homily. And I think that's kind of their one job is you've been standing up, sitting down, kneeling. You've been saying all the stuff you're supposed to say, opening all the books, etc. That's the one chance where they're kind of all right, let's all kind of be honest for a minute. We live in the real world. Here's a funny TV show I watched the other day and how it relates to the Bible. I feel like that's kind of the time that they have to reel you back in. And that's sort of on them.
Yeah. In the comments, somebody said right away, it's the fault of your preacher. And I think that's true. Just like you're saying, Dean, that, the homily is the moment where you get to do something, capture everyone's, attention. And that makes sense to me to a certain extent, but also I don't know, I'm at church. I'm not here to watch a clown show, I'm here to be engaged spiritually. And then somebody else said that that they bring a fidget device because they have to keep their hands busy when they are listening to something. And that makes me feel, these two comments together make me feel a lot like some people, not me, but some people think of church like listening to a podcast in real life or something. And I'm wondering, could the preacher speak at 2 times speed? Could I be doing the dishes while I listen to this? I don't know. Just if somebody gave me something to do during church, like when I was a little kid, my parents let me have sort of a little notebook where I could color. And I think maybe if I could color during church, that would be really great for my my church enjoyment. So something to think about. Maybe just color at church. Maybe bring some pens, some pencils. I think that's a good idea. My church has this whole little kids section, and it's not not just little kids. There are big kids that kind of just hang out over there, and they all kind of just play with blocks, no matter what their ages are. And can I have some of those blocks? Can you bring those over to me? I would love to build a little tower as I listen. I think that is good. I think we need more towers. We need more crayons in church.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. I do think hashtag not all Protestants, but some Protestants definitely do those church services. They go from radio time to podcast time. There's music time and then there's podcast time. The podcast is 40 minutes of a pastor giving you a book report. I think whatever. People, I'm sure, like that, and that's fine. I'm not here to tell you that you shouldn't. But what a wild thing that would be. And I feel like if that's the kind of church that you go to, then it's definitely the church's fault. I think we can say that. The church bears the most responsibility at Podcast Church. And good luck to you if you're a Podcast Church pastor. That sounds hard. But how fun would it in fact be to have a few more kind of fidget excuses? The only trouble is, I think with high liturgical churches in particular, it might get a little dicey with all the kneeling and standing, kind of negotiating all the stuff you've got. Like if you have a group of adults playing a game of jacks in the aisle when you're about to go up and get the Eucharist, that feels like a tripping hazard.
Well, yeah, I mean that makes sense. But what is genuflecting but fidgeting?
True. That's a that's basically why I do it. It just seems like something you're supposed to do.
Cool. Well, there you go. I think that there is some church sanctioned fidgeting we can all be doing out there. Maybe we just need to be creative in finding it. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have any other questions, Dean? Because I have one more that's really good.
No, that was the only one I had.
Okay, this one's going to take a little bit of setup, but it's going to pay off big time in the end. This is a Reddit post from 4 hours ago, and it's called "The Devil's Paradox." It's not. It's not really a paradox, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. Here's a question. Lucifer has always been portrayed as the rebellious son who sought to pervert humans, but this doesn't fit with his home or place of confinement. Whatever that means. Sure. Satan, Lucifer, that's in parentheses, and his servants, the demons, punish sinners, but it isn't just a punishment. Rather, it's vengeance, eternal revenge for the harm and suffering those souls caused in life. All right. That's one particular story about the devil that we've told. I think it's kind of a weird one, but that's fine. And then then this post goes on to say, the figure of the furious avenger doesn't fit well with the popular image of the devil, understood as the charismatic subverter and agitator who seeks to pervert humans. Rather,
these are my favorite Marvel characters: the furious avenger, the charismatic perverter.
Big time. Rather, it's completely the opposite. Think about it. Why would the devil, being evil and seeking to spread evil and discord, punish the people who have best carried out his plans instead of rewarding them and employing them beyond death? So here's the question, and that this thread is asking. This is only, by the way, this is the only first two paragraphs. There's more. So you have the devil, and we think of the devil as the warden of the jail for souls. But why would the devil be trying to punish those people who have been doing the thing that the devil likes so very much? Instead, shouldn't he be rewarding them? So, Dean, what's your opinion on this particular setup?
My opinion is, sorry, did you say charismatic perverter?
Did I say that? Yeah, no, sorry, charismatic subverter.
Oh, okay. I guess I have.
He's the charismatic subverter and
brain.
agitator who seeks
Right.
to pervert humans.
Okay, that's it. Okay, I guess
There's
what
some
I'm
perverts
saying
in
is,
here for sure.
what I'm saying is, my opinion is charismatic perverter is a pretty good name for the devil, but I'm glad to hear that it's not. I'm glad to hear that title is still up for grabs. And I think we could probably find some good candidates in the Capuchin order of the Catholic Church. Some good charismatic perverters who built that bone church for sure.
There's a lot of perverters. I'm not sure if they're as charismatic as they need to be, though. If they could be a bit more charismatic about their perversions, it might be better. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Let's see. Okay, there are so many things to say about the devil. They're all interesting. They're all not interesting. I don't know. Hard to tell, depending on your mood. The devil, of course, we know he's roaring around like a lion. He's prowling around. He's looking for people to eat. He's goofing around with God in the Book of Job, making bets. Just a kind of an unpredictable guy, if you ask me. And I think, okay, there's one situation in which it's the devil's job to punish people in hell. He doesn't like God. He's mad about it. But at the end of the day, he has to do whatever God tells him, and that's his job. And that might create some weird conflict of interest. You know, he might, I don't know, go a little easy on you here or there if you've been a really good sinner and he liked that, but that's his job. The other way of looking at it is that maybe the devil is not really the warden in hell, because where did we even decide that? And maybe he's just, down there with you as well. And you could say you could go around looking for him, but you probably wouldn't want to find him. Sounds like a pretty rough place. I don't know. I feel like all this really makes me think of is the devil is just kind of like really fun for fan fiction about Christianity. In the biblical extended universe, the devil's just a fun character you get to kind of introduce whenever you want to say something weird or something spooky or scary. And I think we should just keep it that way. We shouldn't resolve it. He should be everything that we want him to be, as long as it's spooky and weird and scary.
Yeah, I think reading the devil as fanfic for the extended universe is pretty fun. later in this post, the OP says, I've always wondered if the story of Lucifer is actually twisted, as if there are actually three opposing figures instead of two, the
Whoa.
devil and God. And one of those figures was both the devil, the Punisher, and God, the God of the Old Testament. So this person is doing the fanfic, but did accidentally do a heresy, and I think that's cool. That's cool too.
That's basically how every heresy comes about. So that seems right.
Yeah, it's true. I love that, like, in the olden days, in Bible times, in post-Bible times, people would, have to really work their way up to heresy. Like, they'd go kind of be regular people in the church, and then they'd have some kind of weird vision or epiphany that would lead them towards, like, a big heretical moment, and then they'd get burned at the stake or whatever. This person's just on Reddit, just posting, and I think that's maybe, like, we've lost something in the disenchantment of the world or something here.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so those are all our questions answered. We've got some current events, and I'll go ahead and get us started, Matt. There's a lot of big Catholic current events, a ton since we've last recorded a podcast. We've got two more saints in the church.
Hey.
There is, of course, God's millennial influencer, Carlo Acutis, a guy whose picture Matt and I saw over and over and over again in store windows in Assisi in Italy last year. The Carlo Acutis paraphernalia industry is really taking off over there in Italy. He's out there. He was on the internet a lot and was a really good guy, and I guess that's why he's a saint. That's cool. And the other guy, who's also very interesting, is Pier Giorgio Frassati, who is an Italian anti-fascist and a very cool guy. A person that I'm not going to talk about today, but is worth looking up. The thing I wanted to say, though, about that is that Carlo Acutis, there's big news because the first, well, not the first, there was a relic from him that was stolen in Venezuela and is being sold on the internet. I think that is pretty wild. It's a big scandal. The relic in particular is a circular piece of cloth that he touched, which is a third-degree relic, I learned from reading exactly one article about it. And I think that is pretty wild. We got the new saint. He's out there. You can pray to him. Everything's fine. But somebody did steal his circular cloth and is trying to sell it. And I'm just kind of curious about like who would buy it. who first of all would steal it. That part I can kind of understand. I don't know, maybe you're sacrilegious or blasphemous, or it doesn't really matter, you're playing a prank. I feel like there's many motivations for stealing it I can understand. Buying it I find hard to understand. I feel like that would be the cursed object that would make you do a bad job in the next big game. Definitely more than posting a bad Instagram status.
That's a sin fish. Why is nobody ever asking this question on Reddit about whether or not this is a sin?
So I think that's pretty wild. He also, this guy, Carlo Acutis, has been, there's been a lot of relics of him going around. One other one was, I saw a photo of, there's a relic of the membrane of his heart in a golden vessel. And that made me wonder, how many relics do you think you can get out of one human body?
Yeah, I mean, you could really just split this up, though. Your body's got so much stuff in it, and some of that stuff can be separated. Like, you in the olden days, the post-Bible times, you had fingers, you had knuckle bones, and stuff like that. A foreskin, obviously, but man, taking the squishy part of the heart out and putting it in the thing, that seems like a lot. Seems like a lot to do. And if you start doing that, one person could just make so many relics. That seems like, would it dilute the power of these relics? I don't know. I don't know how it all works. I don't know what the metaphysics are of the relics, but seems complicated. You mentioned a minute ago that there is such a thing as a third order relic. How does that work out?
Right. So it's a third degree relic. How many degrees there are, I'm not sure. But a third degree relic is a relic that has been touched by a saint. So they didn't pull this relic out of him. I guess that's probably the first degree, I would hope. But yeah, there's like I don't know. I can't think of another good third order relic, but you might imagine St. Augustine's coolest pen. Like that would be a cool third order relic. Or, we saw a bunch of them, I guess, at St. Francis's tomb. His tunic, his journal, book, or whatever. Those kinds of things. But I'm very curious. I mean, that, I guess, is a potentially infinite amount of relics. You could just kind of pick something up and be like, well, I don't know. He sat on this toilet. That's a third order relic. What a cool thing. But the idea of like harvesting an actual human body to produce relics is something I'm suddenly very morbidly curious about. I got to write a letter to the new pope. I got to ask him that.
I think that's a great idea. Okay, well, that's interesting because this also this is making me ask some questions about the news that I have to bring to the table, at least the first bit. I was farting around on the internet today as I was trying to work on this book still. Anyways, and I found this article that was published today referencing an older scientific article that came out in February. But the title of the article is Scientists Discover Microplastics Deep Inside Human Bones.
No.
Yeah, you could, and listeners, of course, you know exactly why I'm so interested in this. The human bones part is really fascinating. Here's a quick summary of the article written in the article itself. Thank you so much, article, for writing your own summary. Microplastics have been detected in human blood, brain tissue, and even in bones, where they may weaken skeletal structures and accelerate cell aging. Recent studies suggest that these particles could worsen metabolic bone diseases like osteoporosis, a risk that's especially concerning as fractures are projected to rise sharply in the coming decades. I don't know what's going to happen in the coming decades that makes fractures more likely, but it's not good news for anybody. Yeah, I don't know. Microplastics, obviously very bad. The article says that there are, 400 million tons of plastic each year. All of these scary things we've talked about on previous episodes, especially when we're talking about trash and the materialization of capital and economic growth, all these kinds of ideas. But Dean, here's how it does tie into what you were just saying. So say you're a saint, right? And they pull some microplastics out of you. Is that a second order or first order, or third order bit of material?
Wow, that's crazy. That, I guess, that's profane material. You got to get that out. You got to put it all in the big centrifuge and pull all the microplastics out before you can put the heart membrane or the bones or whatever in the special glass vial. I don't think you can get the microplastics in there. I think that is a structurally sinful material. We're not allowed to have that in church.
Big time, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Not being as scientifically minded and as smart as other people, maybe I can't make sense of exactly the importance of this kind of thing, but it seems particularly bad. The microplastics, by the way, they're in your bones, specifically in your amongst the cartilage and other bones and material in the discs in your back, which is wild. Seems like they shouldn't be there. Disturbing. I don't like it. I want my bones plastic free, please. They're not going to put them on display if there's plastic in them.
That's right. It reminds me of the atomic bomb. You've heard of it. It went off
familiar.
A couple of times.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of radiation still in the world as a result of all that. And if they need what they call low background steel, they have to go harvest it from sunken ships and stuff, because they were ships that sank before the nuclear tests in the 1940s or whatever. And they have to get it from those ships because they were shielded from radiation in a way that newly harvested steel, I guess, is not, or is harder. I don't know. I don't know anything about science, but what a weird thing. They have to go get steel from the ocean because of nuclear bombs. And I feel like that is what we're going to have to do for the future Bone Church. We're going to have to find, pure saints that were born before microplastics, get those bones out there. The rest of them, it's going to be pretty labor intensive. Getting my bones in the Bone Church, there's going to be a lot of plastics. It's going to take a long time to get those sorted out.
What if you're one of your saintly miracles is that your body doesn't have the microplastics in it? That'd be crazy.
Oh yeah. Yep, that's going to be the one for me for sure.
I'm pretty sure I've got too many microplastics in me already. I don't think I have any hope of that. So, put my body through the big sieve and strain out the plastic bits. Oh, dang. I don't know. Any other big news on your end, Dean? I have two more great ones if you don't.
All right, great. I do have one. I can break up the rhythm here.
Oh, great.
The Pope Leo. He, as we've said before, is maybe not as like charismatic or exciting or flashy as Pope Francis, but he does have this knack I've discovered in the last several months for like occasionally just saying something kind of funny or like kind of straightforward and direct in ways that like I don't know. Pope Francis was funny, but in a different way. He was like a goofy pope, a bit of a jester pope. I love that about him. Pope Leo does feel like just kind of a goofy person from the United States in Rome in a different sort of way. And that came out recently in an interview. So he did this big interview with a journalist, Elise Allen. She writes for Crux, which is a pretty interesting news source for Catholic stuff. And the interview is big news because she asked him about, I don't know, dozens of topics. And it's like his first big sit down interview with the media. And one of the topics that they talked about was AI. And he said that, and there was a proposal at the Vatican to make an AI version of the Pope so that people could have a virtual audience with the Pope. And he did not like that idea at all. He said, if there's anybody who should not be represented by an avatar, I would say the Pope is high on the list, which I got to tell you, I agree.
Yeah, good idea.
He said somebody wanted to create they wanted like authorization to make this AI product. He said this artificial intelligence Pope would give them answers to their questions. And I said, I'm not going to authorize that. He went on to say there's a danger in artificial intelligence because you end up creating a fake world and then you wonder, what's the truth? He goes on to say, our human life makes sense not because of artificial intelligence, but because of human beings and encounter, being with one another, creating relationships, and discovering in those relationships also the presence of God. The danger is that the digital world will go on in its own way and will become pawns or left by the wayside. And then he talked a bit about employment, AI effects on that, other items. He says that the church is not against technology, but it's trying to like bring a certain perspective to what's going on. When Pope Leo became Pope, I clocked that pretty quick. He said that he was going to write something about AI. And he also chose the name Leo because it intentionally invokes Leo the 13th, the author of Rerum Novarum, the kind of initiator of modern Catholic social teaching. So I think everybody, myself included, is being like, when's this guy going to give us the big AI encyclical? And I've always been kind of like intrigued, but also a bit nervous about what's it going to say. I'm sure that it's going to be like, it'll have some middling paragraphs, but I gotta say, the Pope being like, do not make an AI of me is a very good sign. I think that is the kind of guy I want in the driver's seat at the Vatican. No AI of the Pope. He's doing a good job out there. It's also really increasing my own AI. A couple more quick AI things, and then we can complain about it together. There was connected to this a recent, what do you call this? A survey at Pew, the Pew Research Center. And it revealed that about half of the respondents said that AI will worsen people's ability to think creatively and form meaningful relationships. So 53% about said that. That might seem low to you, but I think the important thing is that less than 20% on almost all of these said that AI will actually improve our ability to do these things. So, for example, 16% said AI would improve our ability to think creatively. 5% said it would improve or it would form meaningful relationships with other people. It would help us do that. 19% said it would help us make difficult decisions. 29% said it would help us solve problems. An uncomfortable amount of people who are either not sure or don't seem to think it will have any effect at all, which I think is, I don't know, par for the course for how people in the United States are reasoning these days. But it was pretty interesting to see that, like, ultimately there's a pretty clear like suspicion toward AI and definitely not a large scale enthusiasm about it. And man, what a great sort of proof for the absurd, or kind of disproof, I guess, of the absurd capitalist lie that, people only, like, businesses only make stuff to fulfill demands. People just are not demanding AI. In fact, they think it's probably going to make your life worse. And nevertheless, everywhere you look, people are telling you that it's good, it's important. And to put a cherry on top, I thought I'd share my own very funny AI experience recently. I looked at X, the Everything app, recently, and I was looking at it to find information about something very foolishly. Guess what? I didn't find it. I don't know what compelled me to look at it. I have not opened this app in months, but it happened to be on the same day that there was like a big drone display and concert at the Vatican. And
Mm.
it was organized by Pharrell Williams and Andrea Bocelli. And it's kind of like a big, weird pop culture moment in Rome. Anyway, that's all weird in itself. We could talk a lot about that, but we're not going to. The AI summary of it on X that I didn't ask for, that it just gave me, said that Pope Francis leads historic Vatican concert with Pharrell, Bocelli, and global stars. On September 13, 2025, Pope Francis hosted Grace for the World, the first public concert in St. Peter's Square in over 2,000 years. It goes on to say a lot of very funny stuff, but I was cracking up thinking that this AI doesn't even know that the Pope is dead. What a weird thing. But all that to say, to circle back, the Pope Leo move to say you shouldn't make AI avatars really feels like it's kind of underscored by this very event where AI is also trying to tell you that a different Pope is actually the Pope. So I think we need to launch a holy crusade against AI. It's clearly trying to subvert the rule of Pope Leo already, and I've already chosen a side in the big Catholic AI crusade.
That's great, man. AI is so stupid. It continues to be the worst thing. The worst thing that has really no purpose. And I think that's maybe what's so frustrating about it. You're reading those like survey stats out, and I guess what is so weird to me is that, yeah, generally people feel like there's not really a great use case for AI, but still people are using it. And and it's just like, what are you doing this for besides like your own stupid entertainment? And I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It feels, if that sentiment is to be trusted, and it is the case that people are still using it, it's like you've just invented like a machine that you can basically only use to do sort of like mediocre work and entertain you with stupid pictures of shrimp Jesus or like whatever. But it does use like several bottles of water to do it. It's just like you made a machine that exacerbates you for like mild entertainment, and I think that is what is so frustrating to me. It's not even that it's really, really fun, like, oh my god, this is as good as playing a video game or something. It's not any of that. It's just like it's just something you can do when you're bored at work, and like you have access to it because your boss like bought everybody an account or something, or for ChatGPT. It's just so stupid. Hate it.
Yeah, get a fidget spinner.
Get a fidget spinner. Just bring a notebook with some crayons to work and then just do that instead of work. I think that's fine.
Yeah, be the person who carries a big bag of Werther's originals to work, just like your grandpa at church, and pass those around. Be that guy. Don't be the AI guy.
Seems good. All right, this is unrelated to yours. Finally, for once in this episode, I have an unrelated segue. There's nothing connecting these two, just two different stories.
That's all we got.
Yeah, I know. Okay, everyone knows I'm over here in the UK. I'm loving it. What a great country. I mean, Scotland in particular. The rest of the UK, I'm maybe less thrilled about, but generally, a great group of people over here. The political situation in the UK has been like spiraling in the past year. So at the very end of, well, not quite, in 2024, the Labour government came into power with a landslide victory, ousting the Tories and winning big, installing Keir Starmer as the Prime Minister of the UK. Great for them. And ever since that, the Labour government has like completely dropped the ball, to say it very politely, on basically every priority that I think a lot of voters had, and they are more unpopular than ever. In that vacuum, a extremely right-wing sort of Trumpist party has definitely risen to political fame, led by a guy named Nigel Farage, which seems like a caricature of himself, but that's fine. It's called Reform UK, and they are projected, like, if there was a vote tomorrow, and there's not, luckily, because the Labour government probably still has quite a bit of steam left in it. And despite all their faults, that's probably a good thing. Anyways, if there were a vote tomorrow, the right-wing party would win. And people in the left in the UK have been saying, well, we need a good left wing party to kind of like set things right. Because if we had a left wing vehicle to sort of organize around, maybe people would sort of drift our way instead of the rightward way, as just like protest votes and stuff. It's all like weird political calculus. Maybe some of it's true, maybe some of it's not, maybe some of it is like just wishful thinking. That's electoral politics for you, though. Anyways, there is a left wing party that is the Green Party, which is there are two separate Green parties, one for England and Wales and one for Scotland, but they have been like pretty marginal for the last bit. And with them sort of marginal and the general desire for a bigger left wing party, two politicians who are quite well known over here have stepped up and really tried to make a go of it. One is called Zara Sultana, who is a former Labour MP. She left the Labour Party because she was further to the left of them, and that's great for her. And then the other one is Jeremy Corbyn. Everyone knows Jeremy. An old man who couldn't quite lead the Labour Party and got ousted for a lot of different reasons. Ask any leftist in the UK and they'll tell you some kind of story about why they think that is, and good for them. They should be trying to figure it out. Anyways, together, those two, with a handful of independent MPs, tried to form a new party called Your Party. Well, it's not actually called Your Party. That's like the placeholder title before, because they wanted the people who joined it to name it. A wild situation. Listen, I'm not a professional political person, but when they launched Your Party, they did it in a very weird way, where they're just like, one day Zara Sultana said she was no longer a Labour MP and that she's going to start a new party with Jeremy Corbyn, and that was the beginning of it. And there was no real way to sign up. There was no like real infrastructure until far later. And it's just been kind of weird, I think. People, finally they had like a mailing list you could sign up for to get more information about it. And a lot of people did sign up on the mailing list. Like there was there's a legitimate amount of, I think, excitement around it for a few minutes until until something happened just a few days ago. This is the headline to a Guardian article, and then I'll tell you exactly what happened. Sorry, this is like so in depth. I didn't know I had so many things to say about this, but I guess I had to explain it for the North American audiences. The title of this Guardian article is "Corbyn Clashes with Sultana Over Membership Portal as Split Emerges a New Party." You know they got to do it. People on the left, we got to split. It's just so important for us. Just a few days ago, Zara Sultana said that she was frozen out of the party by a, quote, sexist boys club within the party. Meaning that, like, as she explains the story, these are not her words, these are mine, but she was, like, frozen out of the communications. She was frozen out of, like, the platform and, like, all of the list building and, like, the decision making. She said that she was, like, stonewalled, basically. And the other people within the sexist boys club said, "What are you talking about? We have other women involved. This isn't a sexist boys club." And listen, I'm not here to pass judgment on either of these people for a party that I don't belong to in a country I'm not a citizen in. I don't know. I'm not here to say one way or the other. It just all seems suspicious and it's frustrating. So this whole thing has kind of spiraled where now, people were signing up. They were excited. They were getting ready to like have this big kind of convention to name the party. And there was an emerging party with a similar vibe in Scotland for these two guys. And it just fell apart. And Jeremy Corbyn has said since that like this party is going to happen for sure. Like we're still doing it. Don't even worry about it. And there have been even developments since where now they're trying to some people who were involved, especially people who are trade unionists who've been involved prior to the split. Now they're trying to take more of a leadership role and like kind of get the reins away from the elected MPs, which is an interesting strategy to have like, people who aren't elected to any office kind of take control of the political party. I'm not even sure if you can really do that within the UK parliamentary system. I'm not an expert, but very frustrating. But the fallout from this particular upset has spiked the numbers for the Green Party in Wales and England, which is very funny. So people are like, it seems like at least some are quite fed up with this. I think like when this started going down the other day, the Green Party in Wales and in England had something like 60,000 members, and then today, just a few days later, after this all went down, they have like several thousand more. Like I want to say 12,000 more, but that might not be the exact right number. So I think this is. I don't know if there's like a lesson to learn from this other than like don't screw up. Like don't do this kind of thing. Don't split your party that you just made that like probably had some kind of promise to it. That's a bad idea. Maybe the other thing to learn is that like if there's an already existing kind of like left-wing party like the Green Party, maybe you should think about like joining efforts rather than, doubling them in a weird way. I don't know. A very complicated situation. Well, complicated isn't the right word. A very like, unforced error kind of situation. A situation complicated by people making unforced errors. That's it. That's where I'm trying to get to. But anyways, that's what's happened over in the UK. We'll see how any of this shakes out. Maybe things will be different in a few weeks, or maybe they'll get worse. It could always get worse, it seems. I don't know, Dean. Do you have any thoughts?
It sounds like they should have named the party the Definitely Not Sexist Boys Club Party and not Your Party, because I feel like that would have clarified the whole thing. That would have made everything really clear from the beginning.
It couldn't have hurt. It couldn't have hurt. Yeah, very hard not to be kind of cynical about this. I mean, meanwhile, like, full disclosure, I'm a member of the Green Party in Scotland, so I have like a dog in this race. But only kind of, because it's a separate party from the one in England. But anyways, all that to say, meanwhile, in the Green Party in Wales and England, they just elected a new leader, this guy named Zach Polanski, who is like an eco-socialist and is very cool and is very charismatic and like is a person who's attracting a lot of media attention in a time when they really need it. So it just feels like, whatever, these guys are like bumbling around, like just messing everything up, and then the Greens are kind of mopping up, which I guess is good, but it seems like they could have not done this and it would have been better.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about the electoral landscape in the UK for sure, but it is interesting. I mean, the parliamentary system in general is interesting as compared to the US. There's kind of like I don't know, I feel like there's like, in some ways, more room for creativity and difference. People are more willing to like play around a little bit with parties and party identities, the creation of parties, the ending of parties, etc. You could like never imagine the Republicans or the Democrats actually splitting into some like other parties or other kind of parties
Right.
emerging to challenge them by design, right? Like the system has kind of put things in place that prevent that from happening. And I think that is kind of interesting in the parliamentary system. At the same time, I always wonder, like, the left in parliamentary democracies, it gets kind of, it ends up like failing always to figure out exactly where to put energy, because it's like, do you put your energy into a party that is like actually potentially electable and maybe has positions that are genuinely left wing or kind of in favor of the working class or marginalized peoples or the climate or whatever? Do you kind of like put your energy into making sure that those kinds of parties actually do have staying power and can become a real opposition and maybe even dare to wield power at some point? Or do you like continue building the kind of base external to the party that can hold all parliamentary parties accountable? Or do you throw in with some extremely minority vanguard party? It's like doing its best to like, I don't know, have a good conscience, but will never get elected to anything. I think like it's such a fascinating, like, confused landscape in parliamentary democracies that it definitely gives you more room to maneuver than I think you have in the United States, which to me just feels like a desperate bid for attention that you will always lose, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've become a full U.S. pessimist, I guess, in that respect. But at the same time, like, that flexibility or elasticity in parliamentary democracy is also like, just, I don't know, it like the temptation to end up in an electoral path that is also going to force a compromise or lose or whatever feels stronger because it also feels more possible. I don't know. It's hard to navigate.
No, I know exactly what you mean, though. I feel the same way. getting a political outcome that you actually want does seem a bit more possible when you have this sort of parliamentary system, like with multiple vying parties. Like, there are of course problems. I don't want to make it seem like, like that isn't the case. It can be such a powerful thing to have, a center left and left wing party in a parliament with elected members, because you can get places that you could not get otherwise. I've seen things happen like in the Scottish parliament where like that's happened, where like the existence of like an eco-socialist party like the Scottish Greens, at least some of the parties like that, has pulled the center left significantly to the left, and like that's very, very cool, and that seems like something worth investing a little bit of energy and time in. But I think your mileage will vary on some of those things. And like if it were the case that there was some kind of like Jeremy Corbyn party in the future that worked like in concert with the Green Party in England and Wales, and like Westminster broadly or whatever, I think that could be a really interesting dynamic too, where there's two left-wing parties kind of representing different sections of the left. That could be very neat and a good strategy. But yeah, it's always, I mean, that's what the right has done for years, is have several right-wing parties running the government at the same time. So it couldn't hurt to like maybe give it a shot. But I don't know. I understand the pessimism at the moment too, with the people kind of like reeling from everything that's happened. It does seem kind of like a time suck sometimes when you could just be like organizing your workplace or whatever, complicated.
Yeah, it is very complicated and no easy or automatic right answer, unfortunately. But anyway, I don't know. It's always good to have a little bit of something fun and interesting going on the left when, the current prospects, especially of the ostensibly center or progressive government, are failing so miserably as they are in the UK and in Canada. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe something cool will come out of it. That's the fingers crossed moment. You gotta
Yeah.
you gotta buy that third order or third degree relic and hold on to it and just really get those extra prayers going.
That sounds good.
Don't do that.
Okay.
That's a super sin, by the way. Just so you know.
Right.
Don't actually
do it. No, of course not.
Look, we're having a lot of fun here in the podcast, but do not buy the third degree relic from the internet.
It's so important. Please don't. You'll get in trouble not with any of us, just with God. But let's talk really quickly about one more piece of news that seems like worth having a conversation about. The UK, Australia, and Canada all have formally recognized the state of Palestine. Wrap your horns, I guess. Not without some interesting details in that, but I don't know, Dean. What's been the take on the Canadian side of things?
Yeah, man, it is complex. I mean, on the one hand, I think it does represent, at the very least, a shift in the international community to a certain extent. Like, recognizing a state of Palestine, I guess, is a kind of recommitment to a two-state solution, for better or worse, whatever. I don't know. And it's obvious that Israel doesn't like it, which I guess is a good thing. But I think that there's also a lot of like problems in the details of how all this has transpired, at least on the Canada side. For example, I mean, civil society has been just like haranguing the Carney government for months and months and months, trying to be like, could you just do anything at all to, prove to Israel that you're willing to like do something tangible, meaningful? Can you like close loopholes that are allowing Canadian goods to go to Israel via arms transfers? Could you like, actually call out the ongoing genocide in Gaza, all these kinds of things. And the Carney government, like, it will occasionally issue rhetoric that's a little stronger than some other peer countries, definitely stronger than the US against Israel. But the details are always where you kind of see what matters and what doesn't. So, for example, when Canada issued its own recognition of Palestine, there are some interesting conditions put on it. One is that, for example, Hamas plays no role in the governance of Gaza. And so only the Palestinian Authority, having organized elections, could really be seen as like the kind of manager of like a democratic way forward for a Palestinian state, at least in the opening term. And I think like that is so weird. Like, I don't know. I think exactly what Hamas's future is in Gaza is probably like an open question for basically everyone. but I find it very hard to imagine that like an armed wing of Palestine that was also democratically elected first, that has now like basically waged, like an incredibly brutal resistance, or has waged a resistance against an incredibly brutal genocide by the state of Israel for 2 years now, and has been like participating in political negotiations and has been meeting heads of state and all this kind of stuff. To imagine that those people have no future in a government in Gaza just to me feels like unrealistic. Like, whether you like them or not, whether you think they're justifiable or not, it just strikes me as like kind of a liberal fantasy that they would just kind of like disappear and some other organized, whether it's Fatah or somebody else or whatever, like some other Palestinian faction would just sort of emerge as like the natural governing party, and that party would like, I don't know, have no ambitions toward armed struggle or have no relationship to the struggle against Israel destroying everybody in Gaza. I just think that is insane. So anyway, that strikes me as like very delusional and kind of seems like a pitch that is designed to fail in a way. So that's one thing that I find really bizarre. The other thing I find bizarre about it is like the announcement from the government of Canada, at least. I haven't looked at the other states, but the Canadian announcement is really long on the criticisms of Hamas and whatever. In this podcast, I'm not here to defend Hamas. I think they should not have done what they did on October 7. Who cares? Whatever. You have to say that, I guess, if you say literally anything about Palestine, which I think is crazy. But then there is not a single word about Israel's behavior with respect to Gaza or the West Bank. And that kind of double standard, I think, is really troubling. Like they're basically being like, well, Hamas, they forfeited their right to govern because they are brutal and whatever. But nobody is calling for like Netanyahu's resignation. Nobody is saying that a two-state solution depends on the current government of Israel, en masse resigning and organizing free and fair elections for like a peaceful solution. Like there's this kind of assumption that Israel still to this day is fine. They're not really doing, something that's above the pale. And I think that kind of shows also how profoundly difficult it is still for Palestinians to be recognized as like human beings at all in the international scene. And the fact that, again, Israel is just like, there's no option on the table to hold that state accountable in any way for what it has done, to me just makes all the kind of announcement of like the recognition of the state of Palestine to be, I don't know, it just seems like trying to look busy, That's kind of how it feels to me.
It's not that different in the UK. Keir Starmer came out just right after everyone else, made their announcements. Or maybe before. I'm actually not exactly sure on the timing, so maybe I won't say exactly. But, again, making the same sort of concessions about Hamas, about how this is not like it's not a reward for Hamas and they can't be involved in the future of the government, etc. Nothing, I guess, like really surprising about that, about that announcement, given, the landscape. There was a few mentions of Israel's involvement and complicity, and, there was some explanation of like Israel's complicity and, being the author of the genocide in general. But, it's not like as strong as it should be, like you're saying. The take that I've been reading mostly about this, though, is just that this is like a symbolic victory, and now we need to see sort of like material ramifications for it. And I think that that makes sense. That is right. But I feel like the material response is going to be, short of what actually is necessary. In Scotland, really interestingly, the Scottish Greens, mentioning the Scottish Greens a lot in this episode, so there you go, some free advertising. Everyone can join the party. They made an amendment recently in the Scottish Parliament, not the UK Parliament, that Scotland should make sure that like no funds go to weapons manufacturers who are selling to Israel, and that Scotland should just like in general join the BDS movement and like boycott Israel. Very interesting, something that the Scottish government supports, so that's cool. Right after the Keir Starmer came out and said this stuff about Israel, John Swinney, who is the First Minister of Scotland, did
go out and like said that the Labour government in the UK should extend sanctions on Israel, even, which I think is kind of an interesting thing for him to do. But won't happen, unfortunately.
It's such a tough thing because all of the international law discourse around Palestine, it's complicated to navigate. I mean, I went to a talk by Francesca Albanese, the UN Special Rapporteur on Palestine, a while ago, and I guess it was last summer, about a year ago. And it was great. She was good, and I think she's a very important voice. And she made this comment when somebody was kind of talking about how the UN has been essentially powerless to sort it out. She was like, yeah, it's true. There's a crisis in the international order and international law. All that's true. It seems like it is powerless. But she had said, she's basically like, for all its faults, we would miss international law if it was gone. Like, it is the discourse that we have right now to talk about stuff, to be mad about stuff, to try to get stuff sorted out. And if we didn't have it, like, things would probably be worse. And I feel like I found that convincing at the time. That makes sense. I still find it convincing. But it also is just true that, like, I don't know, that was like a year ago, and here we are in the same situation. And it really kind of drives home for me the importance of that line in Laudate Deum that I feel like I quote basically all the time now from Pope Francis, where he says, what we need is a multilateralism from below, where activists from different countries can kind of amplify each other's calls for justice and build the sort of power that can force the hand of people in power. I feel like more and more that's kind of the only like substantial hope that I have, which I think is a real hope. It's like, I don't know, also not very strong. The multilateralism from below is also not solving the problem, but I think it's like it is the only kind of prospect for any kind of future where governance is like accountable to human beings and not to like people with lanyards or like weirdos in a policy making vacuum or whatever. So I don't know. I still think that's important, but man, it's hard to like watch this stuff go out and then you see all the discourse about it and you're like, don't worry, anybody. It's like not going to change that much probably. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Be mad about it, be excited about it. It's still pretty much going to be the same tomorrow, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, it's true. It's like, it's one of those things where it's just the multilateralism from below seems really cool until you think about like the durability and strength of the institutions we have to come from below. And then it's just like, well, yeah. All right. Yeah, a nice thought. The institutions that we can inhabit, we should inhabit more and be annoying in them, but it's hard to. It's hard to. The deck is stacked against us in all these different ways, but I don't know.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, it's a nice thought for sure, but in a world of not nice thoughts, you might as well have a nice one here or there, I guess.
I'll take a nice one. Sounds good.
Well, there you have it, everybody. Another edition of the Walk-In. We're canceled for the future, I guess, the foreseeable future, until we can get our license back. What we'll probably end up doing is recording in the basement among the bones. Nobody will ever find us in there. No Protestant would ever dare, and no Catholic even knows what's going on in there. So I think it'll be fine. But I don't know, Matt. What's a good sign-off line after all these big current events?
I don't know if I have a good sign-off line, but yeah, next time we'll be recording not from the bone basement, but from the basement beneath the bone basement. So we'll be broadcasting from an even deeper depth where the president can't find us.
Plastic free.
No plastic in these bones down here. They're too old.
Thanks for listening to the Magnificast. If you like what you heard, you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/themagnificast. If you do, at $1, you can join our Discord where people are chatting about all kinds of stuff. We also made a zine. We probably should have said that in the beginning of the episode. We didn't, but now we're saying it now. We made a zine about Gerard Winstanley, the wild guy in the English Revolution who thought that people should hold all things in common and you should dig up all the fences trying to enclose land for rich people. Really wild stuff. We worked pretty hard on it. I think it's pretty fun. We updated the language so that it's not impossible to read, something from the 17th century, and added a few historical tidbits and so on. So anyway, if you support us on Patreon, you can download it today. Our music is by Amaria Armstrong. Our outro is by The Illogical Spoon, and we'll see you next week.
Get up for church in the morning, souls alive. Heaven come to earth and there won't be no church. We'll meet down by the riverside. There we'll swim with all creation. Never get tired, never bored. Don't worry, someday there'll be no dam between us and our Lord. Jackson, keep your hoods up. Keep your hoods up and you stay up late. In Jackson, you keep your hoods up. Well, you keep your hoods up and you stay up late. Oh, don't mind a cold night, but we might mind if you leave too soon. So come on now, it's still early. Beside what else are you gonna do?